Mistake number 1, choosing to dig a hole with a tiny shovel in 95-degree weather. Welcome back, it's your guy Engineer Mojo. Today I'm going to show you my triumphs and my failures at my first time paver install. As always, I lay out my full tool list displayed on the screen. This is also down below in the video description. As you're watching this video, if you have any tips, please let me know down below to make this easier on myself. I do see myself doing this again in the future. And as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. Let's get this started. As you may have noticed, I started out by measuring the plot of soil that I wanted to break ground on and install the pavers. I'm using 24 by 16 inch pavers, and I'm laying them out 2 deep and 4 wide. After getting my measurements, I'm using landscape spikes and string to lay out the exact area that I want to block off for the pavers. This kept me honest and aligned as I was doing the digging. I started off my digging process using a spade. Now, a spade is the correct tool to use to get nice, clean edges, but I wish I would have started off with just a typical shovel that has a pointier end. A spade has a flat end. I could have started this digging process with a shovel and then cleaned it up with the spade. I would have saved my back and my arms plenty of hassle. I chose to dig down about 3 inches to align with the edging profile that I'm choosing to use. Later in the video, I'll tell you why I chose to go 3 inches and not deeper. I've gone down approximately 3 inches. Now I'm using the spade to clean up my edges, getting that all nice and ready for the edging profile that I'm going to put down. Now here is my next mistake. I was cheap and lazy and didn't want to buy a tamper. You can buy a tamper for about 50 bucks from your local hardware store, which is kind of expensive. So I figured I could just tamp this with my feet. I'm about $1.80. My feet should be able to do the same thing. They can't. They won't do it. Go ahead and get yourself a tamper if you want to properly compact the subgrade, and that also goes for the paver sand as well. So after my foot job, I chose to lay out my landscape fabric. As you can see, I do have an inset compartment little thingy, that green piece right there. I'll show you later in the video what I do there to keep that accessible for the exterminators. But laying down the landscape fabric is pretty straightforward. You just roll it out and you put the spikes down. I put the spikes down about every 12 to 24 inches. And given that I have a really small area and I had extra fabric, I went ahead and doubled up on this landscape fabric. I don't want any weeds popping through beneath my pavers. I wanted a nice clean edge around the pavers and the rock infill, so I chose to go with this rubberized kind of eco edge. You can pick this up from your local parts store. I mitered the corners so they can line up nice and clean at the joints, and this stuff went down pretty fast. I used a 5-pound hammer and the provided spikes and nailed that stuff down in place. It was pretty easy. As I mentioned before, I have a termite catcher tube. To gain access to that, just cut a hole in the landscape fabric and put a little tab and flip that back. That way I can access that right beneath the paver. At this point, I was ready to start laying down that paver sand. I mentioned earlier I chose to only go down 3 inches. I only removed 3 inches of soil because I'm choosing not to install paver base, which is kind of the rock base. Usually you'll see in the details for pavers you can put down 3 to 4 inches of rock base. In my area I have really hard clay, so I didn't feel like that was a need for me. It may be a mistake later on down the road. I don't know. We'll find out. So I chose to skip that. Just put down the landscape fabric, and then over that I'll put down 1 inch of paver sand. I'm using my lazy foot method to go ahead and compact this paver sand. That's definitely a mistake. Get a tamper. I did have a buddy helping me this time. He's about a good 35 pounds. He definitely got me over the edge. I laid out 1 inch of this paver sand approximately. Some areas were a little thicker so I can get the slope that I wanted. I did want this paver to be able to shed water a little easier and not have pounding water, so I do have a slight lean to this paver base to kind of align with my grass area, and I use the sand to help me get that grading that I wanted. Again, using the foot method to pound it down, and I left out a little area for the termite bucket, as you see. I use a 2x4 as a screener to get it nice and smooth, and to tamp it down just a little bit more. Putting the actual pavers in place was a hassle. As I mentioned, without the tamper, I couldn't really get as even as a surface as I wanted, so I had to play with this stuff a lot by adding sand and recompacting and moving and shifting and doing a whole bunch of nonsense just to get these pavers looking somewhat even and somewhat aligned. It was a hassle. The use of a 2x4 to get my edges straight and a rubber mallet to tap those pavers in place was really a big help. I let the pavers sit overnight to kind of settle into the paver sand. Then the next day I applied rocks in between the spaces in the grooves. I chose to go with a nice darker rock. I figured that would complement the pavers really nice. Using a push broom and my hands, I worked the rocks into the grooves as needed. Besides applying a patio paver cleaner, this was pretty much the very last step. I thought overall it turned out really well, but time will tell how this paver will hold up due to soil movement and things of that nature. I think it'll be fine, but we'll see. As always, if you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Any tips, I really mean it. Any tips, comment down below. I need those because I will be doing this again. As always, thank you for watching. It's much appreciated. I'll catch you on the next video. It's your guy, Engineer Mojo. I'm out.